Hello and welcome in. It is the Week 8 edition of Gem State Game Day, coming to you live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, and Instagram account. This is where we stop down to talk about the upcoming slate of 11-man high school football games throughout the state of Idaho every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Mountain Time, 7 o'clock Pacific Time, right here on IdahoSports.com. Thanks for being with us. My name is Brandon Baney. I'm just the host tonight. We'll bring on our panel of experts here in just a moment. But first, I want to encourage everybody that's here live tonight. We want to hear from you, the fans. So as you're watching tonight, you've got a question, a comment about one of the classifications we're talking about, a team or a coach or a player you want to give a shout out to, throw it in the comments. We'll throw it up on the screen, and we want you, the fans, to be an interactive part of this. Also tonight, as you're watching this live, if you could please like, share, and follow this video, that will help everybody who isn't here live help find this a little easier on replay amongst all the other social media stuff that is going on. So with all of that out of the way, let's get to our panel of experts tonight. Second week in a row for our IdahoSports.com intern this year, coming to us live from the Treasure Valley, Jonah Wockenfuss. What's up, Jonah?
Hey, Brandon. How's it going?
Good. You had a great debut, so, don't mess it up. 2 in a row here.
I can't have a sophomore slump.
That's right. No sophomore slump here for Jonah. Also joining us from the Treasure Valley tonight, yes, a heavy influence of the Boise Valley this evening. Welcome back to the show, Zac Dean. What's going on, Zac?
Hey, Brandon, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. This is perfect that we've got 2 Treasure Valley guys on tonight because, I don't know, there was some fishy movement in the Max Preps rankings in both the 6A and 5A classifications this week, to the benefit of a lot of those Treasure Valley teams and to the detriment of teams elsewhere statewide. So we'll get into all of that here on the show tonight. But let's start with our Class 6A breakdown. As always, I will share my screen and kind of navigate through all of this. This is all information you can find at IdahoSports.com. It really, truly is the best resource to use when looking up high school information. So here are the current 6A standings. I'll zoom in a little bit more on this. This will give you an idea of basically what we're looking at here as we approach the final 3 weeks of the regular season. Conference titles will start to be decided. Playoff berths will start to be awarded. And so if we look at the High Country Conference over there in East Idaho, Rigby and Madison both sitting 1-0 in conference play. They just so happen to be playing each other this Friday night on IdahoSports.com. You think that's going to be a big game? Rigby's 5-1. Madison is 4-2. Highland suffered just their second loss of the season last week against Rigby, also on IdahoSports.com. So they're 1-1 in the conference, 5-2 overall. And then Thunder Ridge still bringing up the rear at 0-2, but they did get a nice non-conference win last week, so they are 2-4 overall. Then to that behemoth, the Southern Idaho Conference, the Foothills Division and the River Division. The Foothill Division, Rocky Mountain leading the way at 3-0. They have not been touched yet. Timberline and Middleton are both 2-1. And despite what our standings page says, Middleton actually has the tiebreaker because they defeated Timberline last Thursday night at Donna Larson Park. So right now, Middleton is in second. Timberline is in third. Capital and Meridian are each 1-2. Centennial is 0-3. How about the other division, the River Division? We had that big undefeated showdown last week between Eagle and Owyhee. The Mustangs take care of business. They're 3-0. Owyhee and Mountain View are each 2-1. They will play in the regular season finale coming up in a couple weeks. Boise and Kuna each 1-2, and Bora is 0-3. And then up north, Inland Empire League, still no conference games. It's just Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, and Lake City. Coeur d'Alene lost to Camas Washington last week, so they're 3-3. Post Falls beat Battleground Washington, so they are 3-3. And Lake City fell, and they are 1-5. So those are the latest standings. Let's get to the if the playoffs started today conversation, and then we'll take a look at the schedule of games and see which teams can maybe move up and down the rankings this week and solidify their playoff positioning. We've got here Pang Studio in the chat. How about them Hawks? Yes, the Lakeland Hawks. We will talk about them coming up shortly in our 5A conversation. But in terms of 6A, and again, this will drop tomorrow on IdahoSports.com, my latest bracketology update where I kind of tell you who's looking good for the playoffs, who still has work to do, who's on the bubble. And of course, we take the Max Preps rankings and say, if the season ended today, what would the playoffs officially look like? So here is our 6A bracket. And again, I will zoom in on this. It's going to take up more than the whole screen. But again, here's what we're looking at for the 6A classification. 9 automatic qualifiers, 2 from the north, 2 from the east, 6 from the Treasure Valley, and then there are 3 at-large berths awarded by Max Preps. This week's Max Preps rankings: Rocky Mountain leapfrogs Rigby for the first time this year. So Rocky is currently number 1, Rigby 2, Eagle 3. Timberline, despite the loss to Middleton, still sitting at number 4 and in pretty good position. Mountain View's 5, Madison and Owyhee are basically tied for 6th. This probably goes to like 1/100ths of decimal points. Owyhee 7, Middleton 8, Capital 9, Coeur d'Alene 10, Boise 11, Meridian 12. Those would be your 12 playoff teams if it started today. This is why I said it's good to have Treasure Valley people on, because Highland at 5-2 is below Meridian, who's 1-5, and Boise, who is 2-4. And so you see here on the bracket, Rigby, Eagle, Rocky Mountain, Coeur d'Alene would have the byes. Madison would host Meridian. Timberline would host Mountain View. Owyhee would host Boise. Middleton would host Capital. Zach, what do you think about the Highland Rams being squeezed out currently in favor of some of these Treasure Valley squads?
Yeah, it's a bit of a surprise. I mean, I didn't see who Meridian beat in their one win, but obviously it's the 6A SIC, right? All these teams are fairly good and by means of the 6A standard. So I don't know, Brandon, have you seen a 1 or 2 win team ever squeeze into the state tournament before for any classification?
I don't think so. I think 2 is maybe the lowest I've seen. So that's the interesting part. And these numbers obviously can change pretty wildly week to week. I thought, Jonah, because Highland played Rigby, that they would be okay, even though they lost, in a fairly lopsided game. I mean, that is the number 2 team in the rankings, but you figure as these Boise schools start to beat up on each other a little bit, Jonah, maybe they will start to take each other out, and Highland can maybe jump back into a position.
I mean, you would hope so, because Highland's a really good team, and just them missing the state tournament would just be disappointing. I mean, we saw last week, I remember seeing that Melba they didn't win a game and they were still on the bracket. So it's very interesting just to see how Max Preps does this. And to be fair, I just don't agree with them at all with this, but yeah.
Now I will say Meridian's one victory this year, Zach, to answer your question, was a pretty significant one. It did come against Middleton, 21-20. I mean, that's the only thing keeping Middleton from being, 3-0 in the division like Rocky is, that 1 point loss to. So Middleton, a little bit of head scratcher. They lose to Meridian by 1. They turn around and beat Timberline by multiple scores. So I don't know, kind of interesting. Hayden Eulencott from the North Idaho Prepcast in the chat. Am I crazy? Wasn't CDA 4 last week? The drop to Camas was that big. Yeah. And Coeur d'Alene only lost by 2 scores to Camas High from Washington. And they're all the way down at number 10 currently, but they are still the heavy favorites up in North Idaho. So with that as the backdrop, let's take a look at what's going on this weekend here in the 6A football landscape. I always have to check the Thursday night schedule first, because I know there's always at least one Treasure Valley game, Zach, at Donna Larson Park. Last week it was that Middleton Timberline affair. This week, Bora and Mountain View. So that should be an interesting one. Bora still winless in their division, looking to get off the schneid a little bit there. And then if we go to the Friday slate of games in the 6A landscape, up north, as I share my screen here, the Friday night flash, I'll zoom in just a little bit on this so you can see the matchups a little bit better. There we go. Okay, up north, we have Post Falls taking on Moses Lake, and then the first IEL game of the season, the Crosstown Showdown, Coeur d'Alene at Lake City. That'll be a big one up north. In the SIC, over in the River Division, you've got Timberline taking on winless Centennial. You have Rocky Mountain and Middleton on IdahoSports.com. That'll be a big one. And then Capital at Meridian as well. From the River Division, Owyhee is going to take on Boise. We've got Eagle and Cuna. That game's going to be on IdahoSports.com this Friday night. And then over in East Idaho, Rigby and Madison on IdahoSports.com. And then you've got Thunder Ridge playing Skyline in a 6A, 5A crossover there. Sean Kane says Coeur d'Alene missing some key players. Their running back got hurt in the season opener and kind of is out for the season. But otherwise, Sean, no, they had their full complement of players last week, as far as I could tell. So Post Falls is the team that had to dismiss a couple of members of the team for some off the field stuff. And I'm sure you saw that in the news. Here's Pang Studio in the chat. I agree with Jonah. I think teams with actual wins should play in the playoffs, not losing teams, because remember, most of these boys are seniors. So this could be their last season. I do think eventually the math kind of figures itself out. Like if you're a Highland fan, I wouldn't be too panicked right now. I think, especially with Highland finishing up the season with the bye this week and then Skyline and Madison, those are two games that are really going to boost their overall profile. So with all of that said, Jonah, give me the 6A game you're most excited for this Friday.
Well, first off, I want to say there's a lot of really good games that are going to be streamed by Idaho Sports. But the game that I'm interested in is the Timberline at Centennial. Timberline had a tough loss to Middleton last week. And like you said earlier, Middleton's technically actually above Timberline because of the tiebreaker. But this is just a good game for Timberline to bounce back. They're going against a team that's winless. So, I mean, they are expected to win this game. But it's just a great opportunity for them to bounce back. They're still, I believe, fourth in the bracket that you showed. So they still have a great chance. I'm not sure playing Centennial is really going to help their chances at just continuing to stay up there. That might give Middleton a chance, but Timberline, this is a good game for them to bounce back.
Yeah, Timberline, this is a game you just have to go win. If you lose to Centennial, I mean, you got bigger problems than, trying to figure out where you're at in the playoff line for sure. Zach, what's the 6A game you're most excited for?
Yeah, Brandon, I would say Middleton Rocky. Lucas Gebhardt and I are broadcasting that game for Idaho Sports Friday at 7 and looking forward to that. But like you showed, Middleton and Rocky are both top 10 in the state media polls as of today. And Rocky's now the number one team in the state, and for good reason. They're averaging 47 points per game on offense. So they're just as electric as any other team really in the state for 11-man football. And it kind of starts too. I mean, they have two quality running backs. Oakley Baxter got a lot of the attention in the preseason previews and all that and all the attention. But I did see Idaho Statesman's Football Player of the Week was their other running back, Parker Kleinkopf. He had 6 carries for 96 yards and 3 touchdowns. So clearly they've got a lot of offensive weapons. Their transfer and Rayshawn Jones as well plays both wide receiver and defensive back. So clearly a star-studded guy on both sides of the ball. And but I think Middleton also has weapons as well. I think the ultimate key to this game is Middleton keeping the ball out of Rocky's hands. So they've got a strong running back in Jake Perez, but can quarterback Briar Bauman really keep the ball, really pass the ball around this Rocky defense? So Rocky is the top team. They're favored to win, but this game should be closer than maybe people expect.
Yeah, Rocky wants to get into a shootout. Middleton wants to keep it a low possession, grind it out type of game. Rocky has given up some points this year to some prolific offenses. And yeah, you mentioned Jake Perez, 215 yards, 3 touchdowns rushing last week for Middleton in that victory over Timberline. So can Rocky's defensive front stop Middleton's running game? That could be the key there. In the chat, so Sean Kane from the East Idaho Prepcast asked, was Coeur d'Alene missing some key players? I said no. Hayden says yes. Caden Simmons broke his collarbone. Max Preps knows that? They're not supposed to. It's supposed to be just a computer that doesn't have any human bias. I guess that went over my head as I was looking through the box score and everything there. That is fairly significant. And then Sean wants to know, is Ben Murray out for Coeur d'Alene as well? I don't know, but maybe that explains why they dropped so significantly. And really, that's the game I was going to key in on, was Coeur d'Alene and Lake City. The Vikings now, because they have dropped so low in the Max Preps rankings, they cannot afford to stumble against either Lake City or Post Falls down the stretch here. They have to win the Inland Empire League to feel really secure about their playoff chances. So that is, now they don't have that wiggle room. And for Lake City, obviously one win here would really put some wind into their sails. Not enough to put them into the at-large conversation. They would have to win out and win the conference. But that's going to be a significant game for Coeur d'Alene, who now I guess is going to turn Tanner Stern, the backup quarterback, who is good enough to start for most teams as well. So I think Coeur d'Alene will be just fine there. And then, of course, Madison and Rigby. I think both these teams are fairly comfortably into the playoffs, but the winner of this game has an edge on the regular season conference championship and that first round bye and a home quarterfinal game that goes along with it. Whereas the loser will get one home playoff game probably, and then we'll have to hit the road somewhere. So that is going to be a significant battle as well. And then I guess, Meridian and Capital too. Capital is a team that I've been pretty high on this year. They're 3-3, and Meridian, I I guess, 1-5, a win over Capital would certainly cause them to move up even more in the rankings. So, that's the 6A discussion there. Pang Studio says Post Falls quarterback is also out for the season for a broken collarbone as well. Yeah, kind of a bummer for Post Falls. They've missed a few guys lately. Sean says Max Preps the computer. It's learning. And that is a terrifying thought for everybody. That is for sure. So, all right, that's what's going on 6A football in the state of Idaho. And again, 3 really good ones for you on IdahoSports.com. Rigby at Madison, Eagle at Cuna, Rocky Mountain at Middleton. You want to see some of the best 6A teams in Idaho? Tune into IdahoSports.com this Friday night. Okay, we'll come back with our 5A breakdown. We're going to talk about the Lakeland Hawks. Don't worry, all you Lakeland fans in the chat. We'll get to it and so much more. Don't go anywhere. Gem State Game Day back after this on IdahoSports.com.
As Idahoans, we're not afraid to take risks.
All the way. Go. All the way down.
Driving under the influence is not a risk we're willing to take. Be around to do more of what you love.
Welcome back to Gem State Game Day on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, and Instagram account. Brandon Baney hanging out with Jonah Wockenfuss and Zac Dean. Let's get to the Class 5A breakdown here. We'll go to the standings page at IdahoSports.com and tell you how the conference races are looking. Let's start with the Great Basin Conference over in District 4. Jonah, same report as last week. Minico and Twin Falls still on a collision course. Both are 3-0 in the conference. Both are 5-1 overall. Canyon Ridge is 3-1, trying to play spoiler, but they are still on the outside of the playoff picture looking in. And then Mountain View, Burley, and Jerome kind of bringing up the rear there. High Country Conference, East Idaho. We're starting to see some separation. Hillcrest is 4-0 with a win over Skyline. Skyline is 3-1 with a win over Blackfoot. Blackfoot is 1-2 with losses to both Hillcrest and Skyline. Bonneville is 1-2. Idaho Falls and Shelley both still winless at 0-2 in the conference, 0-6 overall. Southeast Idaho Conference over in District 5, the Century Diamondbacks just keep on winning. I thought finally their kind of first playoff caliber opponent that they've played this year in Teton, a 4A school, they won by multiple scores. Tito Villano, I think ran for over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns in that win. So the Diamondbacks still 6-0. What a fun story that's been this year. Preston's 2-4. Pocatello's 1-5. They will finally get into conference play this week. We'll talk about that in a second. Southern Idaho Conference, District 5. Okay, this got crazy last week. Bishop Kelly still leading the way at 3-0 in the conference, 6-0 overall. But then you had Ridgeview knock off Valley View. So Ridgeview is alone in second right now at 2-1. Valley View is kind of relegated to third. You had Columbia break through with a really significant win over Emmett and in dominating fashion, 34-14. And this was after think about this, Zach. Columbia lost to Ridgeview by 2, 23-21. They lost to Bishop Kelly by 2, 22-20. They could be 6-0 if they just convert, 1 or 2 more touchdowns. How crazy is that for Columbia?
It's one of the better 4-2 teams you'll see this season, right? I mean, to have those 2 scores be so close, you're right. They could be 6-0.
What a phenomenal season they've had. It's been awesome. Nampa finally off the schneid. They get a win. And then Emmett and Skyview bringing up the rear there. Each are 1-3. And then up north, Inland Empire League, still just a 3-team conference. Lakeland, Sandpoint, Lewiston. The Hawks 7-0. Keep chugging along. They beat Timberlake last week. Sandpoint is 6-1. Lewiston is 2-4. And Lakeland and Sandpoint both ranked in the media poll and coaches poll this past week. So that gives you an idea of what's going on 5A. It is a humongous 16-team bracket. So if you've got a pulse, you're in. There are 8 automatic bids. They automatically get the top 8 seeds. It's 1 from the north, 2 from District 3, 2 from District 4, the District 5 champion, and then 2 from East Idaho. And then the remaining seeds, 9 through 16, will be given to the next 8 best teams via Max Preps ranking, and there are the at-large bids. So this week's rankings Bishop Kelly still number 1, Hillcrest 2, Skyline 3, and then a fairly significant drop-off. Blackfoot is 4, Lakeland is 5, Columbia jumps all the way up to 6. They were in the teens last week. They're number 6. Century was like 14th last week. They jump up to number 7. Sandpoint is 8, Twin Falls 9, Minico 10, Bonneville, Ridgeview, Nampa, Lewiston, Emmett, and Valley View. And that's the cutoff right now. The Falcons 3-3 and hanging on by a razor's edge. Winless Shelley breathing down their necks because of a more rigorous strength of schedule. Jonah, I know you love seeing that.
Mm-hmm. You love seeing that.
In all reality, Shelley and Preston have an outside chance of stealing a bid from one of these teams down here at the bottom if they can get a win somewhere over the final 3 weeks of the season. And not likely, but possible. So, and again, these are just for fun, but here's what the matchups would be. Bishop Kelly hosting Valley View. Okay. Ridgeview and Blackfoot. Now, even though Blackfoot is ranked 4th in the Max Preps rankings, because District 6 only gets 2 of those top 8 auto bids, those are going to Hillcrest and Skyline. So Blackfoot automatically relegated to the number 9 seed, which looks kind of funky. Lakeland would host Nampa. Century would host Bonneville. Hillcrest would host Emmett. Minico would host Columbia. Skyline would host Lewiston. Twin Falls would host Sandpoint. That's where we're at as we look at the games for Friday night. And pretty much there's the one Thursday night game, and then everything else is on Friday night this week, which I like. I kind of like that. So here's what we've got. The Friday Night Flash on IdahoSports.com are 5A games this week. In North Idaho, we have Lewiston hosting Sandpoint. We're finally going to get into conference play up there in that Inland Empire League. Can Sandpoint keep it going? Can Lewiston perhaps play spoiler? We'll see, and play their way into a higher positioning. Over in District 3, you have Nampa at Ridgeview. You've got Columbia at Skyview and Bishop Kelly at Valley View. If Valley View wants to hang in this bracket, a win over BK would certainly do the trick. In District 4, you got Mountain Home and Caldwell in a non-conference game. Burley and Jerome, somebody's getting their first conference win of the season between these two teams. Canyon Ridge and Minico. Canyon Ridge, kind of like Valley View, they want to play their way into a playoff position. Beating Minico would certainly do the trick. And then in East Idaho, you have Century going to Preston for the first District 5 game of the season. Preston, the reigning District 5 champions. Century still undefeated at 6-0. You've got Thunder Ridge and Skyline in that non-con game. Bonneville is going to take on Shelley. And then a really fun non-conference game here between Twin Falls and Hillcrest. Jonah, I'll let you go first this time. Which game are you most excited about here on the 5A slate?
I like the Nampa game versus Ridgeview. This is a big opportunity for Ridgeview, having a big win against Valley View last week. I believe the score was 13-7, if I'm not mistaken. So it was a really close game. I mean, it wasn't a high-scoring game, but they got the job done. This is a big game. I think it was last week. There was a ton of teams in the SIC that were just way down there in the standings as far as the bracket goes, and Ridgeview definitely jumped up with that win against Valley View. So this is a big chance for them to just continue to rack up wins, continue to get up there in the standings, and get their best chance going into the playoffs.
Yeah, Zach, we talked about how Columbia was like 4 points away from being 6-0. Well, think about Ridgeview. They're 5-1. Their only loss came by a single point to Emmett, 27-26. So they are 1 point away from being 6-0.
Yeah, it just shows how competitive this conference is, right? I mean, Bishop Kelly is the top team in the conference and overall state in the media poll, but a lot of these teams could sneak into the playoffs at the very end of the year. They just need these quality wins, but yeah, you love to see the competition be so fierce across the Southern Idaho Conference.
The job that Gary Thorson has done in his first season at Ridgeview, he's known as he coached in Oregon previously, was known as a guy who kind of turns around programs and rebuilds them. And I mean, the job he's done at Ridgeview has been phenomenal for sure. In the chat, our good friend Sam Buffington from North Idaho says the Lakeland game last week was fun, even when Ryan and I, that's Ryan Skaggs, our broadcaster, experienced our very first ever drone delay. Okay, I'm going to have to hear more about that later, Sam. And then Sean Kane says, Twin versus Hillcrest seems like a huge game. Twin playing better as the season goes, and Hillcrest is so good on both sides of the ball. So, Zach, I'm not sure if that's where you were headed, but go ahead and tell me which which 5A game you're most excited for here in week number 8.
Yeah, Sean pretty much pointed out Hillcrest Twin Falls to me is the big game of the week for the 5A. Twin Falls being at 5-1, Hillcrest undefeated, and Hillcrest on an 11-game winning streak dating back to last season with their state championship. But Twin Falls is on a 5-game winning streak this season after that overtime loss to Sandpoint earlier in the year. I'm looking at the 1-2 running back punch for Twin Falls, Dax Payne and Jackson Saddleberg, who can really get the offense rolling on both sides. So take out one, put in the other, kind of a pick your poison for their offense. But as expected, Hillcrest is a talented team, both sides of the ball, like Sean mentioned. Quarterback Tyson Sweetwood is this dual threat quarterback that can beat you through the air and on the ground. But him and also running back Dax Sargent too. I mean, he's also, just like Twin Falls' running backs are also just really good. So really the game theme for me is Twin Falls' offense. Can they kind of keep up with Hillcrest's defense, and who kind of has that edge? Because I think whoever wins kind of that side and whoever can kind of delay the other could ultimately win this game tonight or later this week.
Yeah, the one hesitation I have with Twin Falls, and they are basically 1 point away from being 6-0 on the season. They played that season opener at home against Sandpoint. It went to overtime. Sandpoint scored on their possession. They kicked the extra point. Twin Falls then scored on their possession, and they went for the 2-point conversion and the win. Didn't get it, took the loss instead. But since then, I don't know that it's been the toughest schedule necessarily. Valley View, Jerome, Canyon Ridge, Mountain Home, Pocatello. So I just wonder, I worry a little bit, no offense to those other teams, but stepping up from Canyon Ridge, Mountain Home, Pocatello, and Jerome to Hillcrest is a significant level up. So I'm very excited to see how Twin Falls does in that matchup. Obviously, the game up north, Sandpoint and Lewiston, is going to be a big one. But for me, the game I'm most excited about is in Preston, guys, down there in District 5. Can the Diamondbacks go to 7-0 and go to the defending conference champions place to do it? I keep saying, with this Century team, the other shoe's got to drop at some point. The other shoe's got to drop, and it just hasn't. So what do you think, Jonah? What do you think of Century's chances of going into Preston and getting a win on Friday night?
I mean, why not? Let's see that train keep rolling. I mean, they've been proven, it feels like a lot of people wrong. They're just impressing everybody. Why not keep going and go up to 7-0?
That would be so much fun. Sean says Twin is only allowing 10 points per game. Can they slow down Sweetwood? Yeah, that's really going to be the key in that Hillcrest Twin Falls battle. So a lot of good games on tap, and a lot of potential trap games here. If Bonneville were to lose to Shelley, their ranking would take a pretty significant hit. If Ridgeview were to lose to Nampa, kind of the same thing with Columbia and Skyview and BK and Valley View. So there's a lot of teams that are going to be on upset alert, not because I think the upset could happen, but because if it does, the ramifications could be quite serious when it comes to those Max Preps rankings. But all in all, really fun slate of games at the 5A level this week, and finally into some conference action in Districts 5 and up north. Finally, we'll get some clarity on the standings there. All right, when we come back, Class 4A, let's see. It's still all the big dogs, Fruitland, Homedale, Sugar. Just keep on rocking and rolling. We'll see what the 4A landscape looks like right after this. Gem State Game Day rolls on next on IdahoSports.com.
Once again, we have contributed to your ideal college savings program. Love, Grandma and Grandpa.
Ideal. Eventually, they'll appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you. I love it.
College costs money.
Welcome back to Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com. We are live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, and Instagram account. If you're watching live tonight, first of all, thanks for being with us. We want to hear from you in the chat. So throw your question, shout out, or comment in the chat, and we'll throw it up on the screen. And then also, if you could like, share, and follow, this will help everybody else that could not be here live tonight find the show a little easier on replay amongst all the other social media stuff. And of course, you can go back and watch Gem State Game Day anytime on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, or X account. So with that, Brandon Baney back here with our Treasure Valley tandem tonight, Jonah Wockenfuss and Zac Dean. Let's go to the 4A standings here on IdahoSports.com. In the Intermountain League, North Idaho, it's a rule. If you're going to be a conference in North Idaho, you have to have 3 teams. That's the 3 6A teams, 3 5A teams, 3 4A teams. Nobody's played a conference game yet. Moscow is 5-2. Bonners Ferry is 4-2. Timberlake 1-6. And still everyone 0-0 in league play. District 6, also a 3-team affair. Also no conference games yet. Sugar Salem's 5-1. Tetons 2-4. They took that loss to Century last week. And South Fremont is 2-5. They beat Westside back in September. And we thought, all right, Cougars are here to play. They lose to Bear Lake last week. And they just seem to be on a little bit of a backslide recently. The Sawtooth Central Idaho Conference over in District 4. Buell leading the way at 2-0. They are 5-1 overall. Couple of nice wins under their cap against Declo, a 3A school, and Weiser earlier this year. Kimberly's 1-0 in the conference, 3-3 overall. Friendly reminder, Kimberly's 3 losses were to Sugar, Fruitland, and Homedale. So they're not your typical 3-3 team. Filer is 4-2 overall, 1-1 in the conference. Gooding's 0-1. Wood River is 0-2. And then in the Snake River Valley Conference, Fruitland, Homedale, both 2-0 overall in the conference, both 6-0 overall. McCall, Donnelly, and Weiser are each 1-1. Payette and Coal Valley Christian are both 0-2. I think that's exactly how we thought the standings would start to separate themselves there in terms of tiers. And then in District 5, the Southeast Idaho Conference, Snake River is 1-0 with that win over Bear Lake a couple weeks ago. 3-3 overall. American Falls still the best overall team at 5-1. And they have yet to begin conference play there. This is Idaho's smallest classification in terms of number of teams. And so it does take a while to finally get into conference play in this classification. If the playoffs started today, and remember, you can find all of this along with my analysis of the current playoff situation tomorrow on IdahoSports.com. My latest bracketology post will go up then. But for the fans that tune into Gem State Game Day Live, I always like to give them a little sneak peek at, what our projected brackets look like as a little thank you for coming on live with us. So the 4A Max Preps rankings currently, I really have no qualms with that top 4. Fruitland, Sugar, Homedale, Kimberly. That's a pretty solid top 4. American Falls checking in at number 5. Buell is 6. Snake River 7. Weiser 8. Teton 9. Filer 10. McCall Donnelly 11. Bonners Ferry currently our last team in at number 12. 12 teams make it. The 5 conference champions plus 7 at larges. Payette, South Fremont, Gooding, all kind of on the playoff fringes there, 13th, 14th, and 15th. And Moscow still, despite being 5-2, is 16th in the rankings. Zach, North Idaho can't get any respect.
Yeah, I feel like in these last couple of weeks, there's got to be, right, some obvious movement. Just like talking about Meridian, right? They'll need a win or two to really stake their claim if they want to stay where they're at in standings. And I think Moscow, as long as they kind of keep charge and keep getting the wins they're supposed to, then they should be able to climb the ranks a little bit. But yeah, definitely surprising to see them so low.
Yeah, right now it looks like their only path to the playoffs is to win the Intermountain League and defeat Bonners Ferry and Timberlake. That is still to come. And again, our fun playoff bracket, if it started today, your top 4 seeds would be Fruitland number 1, Sugar number 2, Homedale 3, Kimberly 4. They would get the first round buys. They basically give the top 4 teams in Max Preps the buys. So you see teams from the same league, for example, Fruitland and Homedale, both getting first round buys. I kind of like that. The other matchups would be number 8 Weiser against number 9 Teton, number 5 American Falls, and number 12 Bonners Ferry, number 7 Snake River, and number 10 Filer, and number 6 Buell, and number 11 McCall Donnelly. So this feels like the most settled in terms of like teams at the top. But let's take a look at the 4A schedule of games this week in North Idaho. This could be the game that decides the Intermountain League Championship and who gets to the playoffs and who doesn't. This is like a playoff game in week 8 already between Moscow and Bonners Ferry. They've got to make the long trip north to Bonners Ferry to play the Badgers in what I'm sure is going to be a hostile environment. Down south in District 3, Homedale and Fruitland. Okay, this could also decide the regular season conference title in that Snake River Valley Conference. You've got McCall Donnelly at Payette and Coal Valley Christian at Weiser as well. If we swing on over to District 4, you've got Kimberly traveling to Wood River. You also have Filer at Gooding. That could be kind of a quasi-elimination game. Both of these teams are on the outside looking in, but the winner of that could be in position to be in position for an at-large playoff berth. The loser might fall way back in the race. And then in East Idaho, American Falls finally going to get conference play started at Bear Lake. You've got South Fremont at Sugar Salem. The rivalry continues there. and Snake River with a really interesting non-conference game at Westside, the perennial 3A powerhouse. So a lighter schedule this week in the 4A ranks, but Zach, what is the game you're most excited for?
Yeah, Brandon, for me, I think the obvious choice is Homedale at Fruitland. So in writing the Snake River Valley Conference preview back in August, I looked at what both coaches said and returning players on both sides of the ball. And I really thought to myself, and didn't want to jinx it or tell anybody, so knock on wood, but I was like, I think both teams just might be 6-0 on their way to playing each other in October. So give it 2 months and both teams are good enough. And here we are now in this week 7, week 8. And on Friday, I mean, this high quality matchup with 2 of the top 3 teams in the state really in this classification. But no, I'm excited about this game. Fruitland, too, head coach Jordan Gross's expectations. The expectations were sky high, and they've proved it with their high quality offense. They're averaging 40 points a game. And he honestly, Jordan Gross told me, like he said in that preview, they averaged 35 last year, and they actually want to improve the efficiency. And it looks like it's working so far. Head coach Jordan Gross talking about quarterback Xavier Uranga having this great year through the air, and just the talent around him with running backs Cade Hall and Javid Blewett, as well as wide receivers Alec Campos and Chance Martell. So the just quality talent on the offensive side, but clearly have them on the defensive side as well. In the preview, talking about linebacker Tice Fisher has really stepped into that star defensive role, but you also can't overlook Homedale either. I mean, they've been a premier team in that conference for so long, and they have their own star quarterback in Titus Fidlock. They've got their dad, Mark, as offensive coordinator. So really the sparks could just fly in this game. I'm curious to see who really edges each other out. But obviously Homedale is kind of the premier program of this conference for the last how many years. So can Fruitland kind of take that next step in this game on Friday?
Yeah, that one's going to be so much fun. Star power on both sides. You went through all those names so quickly. Did you talk about Lucas Hall from Homedale?
I didn't, but again, just another star player, right? I mean, again, the talent is just on both sides of the ball. So really, I put in my notes for kind of this like state game of the week, right? Who really is going to have the edge? And like I said, can Fruitland kind of take that next step and assert themselves as the top team? Because ultimately, in my mind, I think whoever wins this game, yeah, Brandon, like you mentioned, kind of controls their destiny in the conference and ultimately for the state playoffs as well.
For sure. Yeah, Lucas Hall, great tight end, great defensive player. And to me, the best kicker and punter, not just in the classification, but maybe in the state. Maybe Rylan Borgman from Hillcrest and Sawyer McClendon from Rocky Mountain, maybe edge ahead, but he's like a top 3 kicker and punter in the state of Idaho. In a game like this, special teams can definitely be a weapon. So, and really, each of these teams want to do the same thing. They want to run the ball and then hit you with the big play. That's Homedale's MO. It's always the deep passes down the field after they lull you to sleep with the run. So which defense can limit the big plays might determine who comes out on top here. Jonah, what is the 4A game you're looking for?
I always like the battles of the ones kind of in the teams on the verge of making the playoffs. And right now it's the battle, I think the game of McCall Donnelly at Payette. McCall Donnelly, I believe, is sitting at 11th right now in that, and then Payette's 13th. So if Payette could pull off a win, that could really help them jump up. And then if McCall Donnelly wins, that's a chance for them to continue to build momentum, especially beating a team that maybe isn't the best this year, but they beat Coal Valley. And then they also play, I believe, Homedale next week. So momentum's everything. You play against Homedale, a top-heavy team. If you can, build some momentum, you might be able to give yourself a chance. And this is a good chance for McCall Donnelly to just really build momentum. And with the playoffs coming up soon, that's what you need.
Yeah, I saw McCall Donnelly with my own eyes earlier this year when they played Timberlake. I was really impressed with what Coach David Joyce has put together down there in McCall. They lost that heartbreaker to Weiser 2 weeks ago, 21-14. And then, Jonah, you mentioned it, Payette this week, and then Homedale and Fruitland to finish off the slate. So they have a chance to play themselves into potentially a conference title here as well if they can get it figured out. And Payette, we should just mention, for the second year in a row, they're doing really nice things. They didn't allow a single point this season until September 19th against Marsing, but and they lost that game to Marsing 26-21, and then they had the reverse. They had to play Homedale and Fruitland right away. So their status has taken a little ding, but I'm with you, Jonah. I think Payette, it's not going to be easy. McCall Donnelly and Weiser are still on the schedule, but if they could get a win over one of those two teams, I think we'll see the Pirates in the playoffs for the first time in a long time. So really exciting times at Payette. And of course, they're moving down a classification level next year. This is their last year as a 4A program. So yeah, big stakes between McCall Donnelly and Payette for sure. I will mention, I kind of mentioned already, Gooding and Filer. That's going to be an important game, kind of an elimination game to me in terms of like at-large consideration for the playoffs. I'm really excited to see American Falls finally in conference play against Bear Lake, a Bear Lake team that just beat South Fremont last week, 16-8, might have a little wind in their sails, but it's the Battle of North for me. Moscow and Bonners Ferry. Moscow has been plagued by injuries this year. They have a freshman at quarterback who's getting better with each passing week, but boy, Bonners Ferry, they've got this running back, Keenan Moss, who it's not uncommon to see him have a stat line of like 35 carries, 250 yards, 3 touchdowns. Like, you know what they're doing. Like, Bonners Ferry is going to line up and they're going to give it to Moss. Can Moscow's defensive line with guys like Needham and Dixon and some of those guys, can they step up and stop Bonners Ferry's running attack? Their playoff lives may depend on it. So for Moscow, it's getting late early for the Bears, despite being 5-2, which is crazy. And so at Bonners Ferry, if they lose to Moscow, how far do they slip in the ranking? Like, this is a significant game. Like, right now, only one team from the North is getting into the playoffs, and it might be the winner of this game Friday night in Bonners Ferry. That's going to be a lot of fun for sure. So, all right, that's what's going on at the 4A landscape. When we come back, the hardest classification to nail down. There is no consensus in the media poll. There's no consensus in the coaches poll. I don't even think the Max Preps computers have consensus. It's the wild, wild west, or should I say east. All the power seems to be in East Idaho with the Class 3A football landscape. And we'll break it down for you as best we can when Gem State Game Day rolls on right after this on IdahoSports.com.
As Idahoans, we're not afraid to take risks.
All the way. Good. Go. All the way down.
Driving under the influence is not a risk we're willing to take. Be around to do more of what you love.
Welcome back to Gem State Game Day, live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, and Instagram account. Brandon Baney with Jonah Wockenfuss and Zac Dean breaking down the Class 3A landscape. It is time to talk 3A football. Sean Kane, Tigers. Yes, the Aberdeen Tigers. We'll get to them momentarily here as we take a look at the current standings on IdahoSports.com. The Central Idaho League up in North Idaho, St. Mary's and Priest River, both still 1-0 in the conference. The wins significantly different. St. Mary's win came over Kellogg. Priest River's win came over Grangeville. There's still a lot to be sorted out here. Grangeville and Kellogg are each 1-1 in the conference. Orofino is 0-2. The Nuclear Conference, District 6. We had that epic battle last week between Ryrie and West Jefferson. It was a battle of undefeated teams. Ryrie ends up getting the win. They are still undefeated at 7-0 overall, 2-0 in the Nuke. With the loss, West J, that was their conference opener. They dropped to 0-1, but they're still 5-1 overall. North Fremont lost a non-conference game to Aberdeen, and Angel Cerna says A-Town has grit. Yes, they do. Aberdeen gets the 2-point win over North Fremont last Friday on IdahoSports.com. So the Huskies are 5-1, their first loss of the season. They're still 1-0 in conference play. Firth is 1-1. They got a nice win over Salmon. They're 2-5 overall, and then there's Salmon also 2-5 on the season. Southeast Idaho Conference. This is District 4 and 5. West Side still maintaining status quo status, 2-0 in the conference with wins over a win over Declo already under their belt. They're 4-1 overall. Their only loss was to South Fremont from the 4A ranks. Malad is sitting at 1-0. They got a nice conference opening win over Soda Springs. They're 3-2 overall. Declo's 1-1, a win over Aberdeen, a loss to Westside. Remember, Westside, Aberdeen, Declo, all semifinal teams a year ago, all from the same conference and all with intentions of getting to the semifinals at least again this year. Aberdeen's 0-1 in the conference still. That lost to Declo, the only conference game they've played, but they're 3-2 overall, and a win over North Fremont last Friday. And then Soda Springs is at 1-5 overall, 0-2 in the conference. And then you've got the Western Idaho Conference over in District 3. New Plymouth, Paul Kingsbury, our boss at IdahoSports.com. This is his alma mater. He's a proud graduate of New Plymouth High. They're 2-0 in the WIC, 5-2 overall. Marcine and Nampa Christian are each 1-0 in the conference. Parma is 0-2. Melba, Jonah, still winless, 0-6. We'll see if they're a playoff team this week, according to Max Preps, or not. They had a tough loss last week to Nampa Christian. So that is the current landscape in terms of 3A football. Gabe Montero says, how about them Ryrie Bulldogs? Yeah, how about them Ryrie Bulldogs? They are number 1 in the Max Preps rankings this week. They leapfrogged Westside for that number 1 spot. The Bulldogs at 7-0 are the new number 1 team in the Max Preps rankings. Look at this, guys. The top 6 are from East Idaho: Ryrie, Westside, Aberdeen, North Fremont, West J, and Declo. Then you get Nampa Christian and New Plymouth at 7 and 8. And then it's another run on East Idaho. Malad and Soda Springs at 1 and 5, guys, is 10th in the rankings because they're in a conference with Malad and Declo and Aberdeen and Westside. So that kind of lifts them up. Marcine's 11. Firth is 12, and you might be thinking 12 teams make the playoffs, so Firth is probably the last team in. Wrong. You'll notice in this top 12, there is nobody from North Idaho. The highest ranked team from North Idaho currently is Grangeville, but they're not even in first place. So we have to go to St. Mary's all the way down here at number 15. They would be our projected conference champ right now, although Priest River also looking strong in that conference. They are 16th overall. And then you've got Kellogg, Parma, Salmon, and Orofino rounding out the rest. So our current projections, the top 4 conference champions, there's only 4 conferences, they get the buys. So it'd be Ryrie as the 1 seed, Westside as the 2, Nampa Christian is the 3, St. Mary's as the 4 for right now. And then our first round matchups would be Marcine at Aberdeen, Soda Springs at North Fremont, Malad at West Jefferson, and New Plymouth at Declo. Zach, what are your thoughts on this 3A classification? This has been a really hard classification to nail down this year. A lot of good teams.
Yeah, I think, like you said, Brandon, it's just kind of a mess with the nuclear conference. There's so many good teams out of Eastern Idaho. I mean, kind of flip a coin and see who's going to play each other in the state playoffs. And a lot of these teams could, like you said, see each other in the state semifinals again. So curious to see how the more Treasure Valley teams will look in the last couple of weeks of the season here with Nampa Christian and New Plymouth and Marcine especially. But again, you're talking about Ryrie and Westside and Aberdeen, especially in these top 3. And they look like the real state contenders for the 3A.
Yeah, Nampa Christian is still the team I kind of like the best of the non-East Idaho teams. They did play Declo earlier this year in a fairly close game. It was the season opener, actually, for both of those teams. Declo won that game 25-18. So I think Nampa Christian is like not that far off. Their only other loss was to Fruitland this year. And then they did beat Melba last week 24-13. So Melba did kind of hold tough. And Jonah, Melba is not in the playoffs this week, but they're still they're right there. I mean, they're only 5 points behind Marcine in the Max Preps rankings. What do you think about that WIC?
I don't know. I mean, I think the winless teams just need to be towards the bottom. You got to prove that you could win some games, even if you are in a tougher conference sometimes. I know Melba struggled, but it just doesn't make sense to me why they're 13th right now.
Yeah, it's all about that strength of schedule. Okay, with that as the backdrop, let's take a look at what's going on in the Week 8 schedule for 3A football. We'll start in North Idaho. Kellogg's got a non-conference game with the Anaconda Copperheads from Montana. They're going to host Anaconda High School. We also have Grangeville at St. Mary's, and Priest River will travel to Orofino. All right, St. Mary's, if you want to show us that you are a legitimate contender in the North this year, then you have to defend your home field against Grangeville, the reigning conference champion. That's a team that Priest River has already beaten this year. So if you want to make that matchup with the Spartans really count at the end of the season, you got to go out and take care of business in this game against Grangeville. Down south in District 3, we have New Plymouth and Marcine This is a really interesting game. The winner of this, if Marsing wins this, they could force a tie with New Plymouth in the standings and leapfrog the Pilgrims there in the loss column. And depending on how their game with Nampa Christian goes, they could win the conference. So this is a pivotal game. You've got Nampa Christian at Parma this week as well over in District 3. And then in East Idaho, you've got Aberdeen at Malad. You have Declo at Soda Springs. We talked about this Westside Snake River non-conference game during our 4A segment. And then in the Nuke, you've got Salmon at West Jefferson and Firth at North Fremont. Feels like kind of a reset week in the Nuke where North Fremont, West J, and Ryrie is on bye. Those are kind of the three powers this year. It's kind of a reset week, and then they'll get back to bashing each other in head-to-head next week. But this is an exciting slate of games. Jonah, what is the game you're most excited for here?
The game I like is Nampa Christian at Parma. I know Parma hasn't been great. They're sitting at 1-5 overall as a record. But Nampa Christian, this is a big chance for them to really just build up that momentum. These next 2 weeks after this is going to be huge for them. They have to play, I believe, Marsing and then New Plymouth. So, it's time. Like, this is a game where you kind of figure out how your identity as a team. And then those last 2 weeks are going to be really crucial especially with playoff seeding, since it's so close with those top three, especially.
Yeah, there's just so many weapons for that Nampa Christian team. Pete Dice at quarterback and Dylan O'Brien is a great three-way player, kicker, punter, DB, receiver. They run the ball really well. They've got really good offensive linemen. And you mentioned it with wrapping up the season against Marsing and then at New Plymouth in the regular season finale. So Nampa Christian trying to keep ahead of steam going. Zach, what is the 3A game you're most excited for?
Yeah, Brandon, I think keeping it in the Treasure Valley with that New Plymouth at Marsing game on Friday. Got to give a shout out to New Plymouth first-year head coach Brody Von Breathorst. He had a great turnaround season so far. They were 2-6 last year and now already sitting at 5-2. So shout out to the Pilgrims for this great turnaround season. And Brandon, like you kind of mentioned too, this game really has a lot of implications for the conference down the line here with Nampa Christian breathing down both of their necks, really, right? Nampa Christian more than likely maybe taking care of Parma on Friday, but again, Marsing and New Plymouth really have a good matchup against each other. And really both teams in this matchup have kind of a 1-2 running back duo as well. There's Braxton Mouter at running back, but also Wane Say for New Plymouth as well. So really, they, again, 1-2 punch that can really work in New Plymouth's favor. And then on the Marsing side, Mo Montez, I saw him in the preview for Marsing's team as a player to really watch out. And so far, he's been really up to speed, really, pun intended, right, as a running back. He's been super productive on the ground. And but not just him on the offensive end, he's also a defensive back too. So one of these star players that can really shine on both sides of the ball. So I'm curious to see how kind of this result ends for Marsing and New Plymouth.
Yeah, New Plymouth, I think, has played the more challenging schedule this year. They've both been, it's been fairly light. Like New Plymouth beat Melba 7-6 earlier this year. I do think Melba's better than 0-6. I think, I do think that, Jonah. But, I look at Marsing and who they played Ryrie, but they lost that game 41-0. And otherwise, it was Coal Valley Christian, Payette, Parma, and Wendell. Wendell doesn't even have a team anymore. So this is going to be, I really don't know how this one's going to go. I think I'm leaning New Plymouth, but, Marsing was the better team last year. It has the better track record recently, but they just haven't played anybody. I can't get a good read on Marsing yet this year because they haven't played strong enough competition week in, week out. But that's going to change down the stretch here, as they play New Plymouth and Nampa Christian, certainly. The game I'm really intrigued by, that St. Mary's Grangeville game, obviously, for North Idaho. But I'm really interested in Malad and Aberdeen. We know Aberdeen's good. Where's Malad at? Malad has been really solid the last couple of years. Solid has not been good enough when you're competing with Declo, Westside, and Aberdeen. Like Malad would do pretty well, I think, in a lot of other conferences. But are the Dragons ready to take that next step? They've got a really good 1-2 running back punch with Holden Tubbs and Morrison. They've got some really good defensive players. They're really nasty up front on the lines. So really, Malad, even if they keep it close with Aberdeen, that tells me, okay, Malad's ready to take that next step, get to the state quarterfinals, maybe the state semifinals. That's going to be a huge measuring stick game for me, Aberdeen and Malad. And can the Tigers keep the momentum rolling with their win over North Fremont last week? So, that is the week 8 breakdown, guys. It's I can't even believe it, but we're in the final 3 weeks of the regular season already here on IdahoSports.com. And a friendly reminder, IdahoSports.com is going to be the place you want to be on Friday nights. I mean, just look here at the top of the homepage. Game streams. That's going to show you all of the games we are broadcasting this Friday night. We've got a couple of good 8-man games in there, but for 11-man action, we've got Eagle and Cuna. We've got Rigby and Madison, Rocky Mountain and Middleton, and Sandpoint and Lewiston. So that's 4 really good, like 6A, 5A games for you this week on IdahoSports.com. Plus some good 8-man action in there as well. Friendly reminder, we'll talk 8-man football tomorrow night on the Idaho 8-man Prepcast at 7 o'clock Mountain, 6 o'clock Pacific time, right here on all of these great IdahoSports.com locations. So Friday night, you want to watch the game, you go to the homepage, click on game streams. You want to see what else is happening around the state, you click on the Friday night flash. This is what we've been showing you all night. And on Friday night, as we get scores in from around the state, we will update them in real time. So you'll start to see numbers and quarters next to all of these games as we get score updates. So this is going to be your number one source for scores as they're happening on Friday night as well. We've also got on the homepage our Gridiron Game Picks. This has been really fun this year, guys, where you can compete against the IdahoSports.com experts to see who really is the biggest know-it-all in Idaho high school football. The contest is super easy. You just have to sign up and register with an IdahoSports.com account. It doesn't cost you any money to play, but you could win money. The top winner each week gets $25 cold hard cash, and the season-long winner gets $100 cold hard cash. Now, I missed last week's picks, guys. I had too much stuff going on, so that took me out of the running in terms of the season standings. But let's go back and look at last week's results. Zach, did you remember to get your picks in last week?
I didn't. No, I think I'm trying to gauge on these other games and how they're going to go. I'm doing NFL pick'em, and I'm not doing very well there. So I think with Idaho football, I think I would be doing not as good.
Yeah. Let's go to last week's results. We'll see which IdahoSports.com personality did the best. We've had several win the week outright this year. Our top personality this past week from IdahoSports.com was me, 13th overall. I'll take it. That's pretty good, guys. I don't know. I got 43 picks right out of 57. Shout out to Bowen Pearson, our winner, 49 picks correct. That's pretty good. Jonah, did you participate in this last week?
I did not. I forgot to completely submit them. So that's my fault on that one, but I will definitely do this for this upcoming week for sure.
You guys are both fired. No, I'm just kidding. All right, get your picks in this week because it's really fun to see, okay, how do the fans statewide do against the experts? Like, hey, I got beat out by 12 other people, and I'm supposed to be the expert here at IdahoSports.com. It's really fun. It's really easy. Again, you just click on Gridiron Game Picks, and then you sign in with your account, and you go to Submit and Edit Picks, and then you click on this week's contest. You go to Weekly Contests, and Week 8, that's what we're on. Select and Edit Picks. It's going to take you to a big list of all of the games, and you just click on the team that you think is going to win. So American Falls and Bear Lake, give me the Beavers. And there, your pick is locked in. And you just make your way down the list, and you make all the picks. It takes about 2 minutes if you're really thinking hard about it. So, again, that's all online at IdahoSports.com. Jonah, second week in a row. This is called a winning streak. You've done it. Nice job, as always. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for letting me come on.
Of course. Zach, always a pleasure to hear from you and your astute analysis from the Treasure Valley. And you're going to be on the call for that monumental game Friday night between Rocky Mountain and Middleton. Excited to hear you on the call.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. Yeah, looking forward to it.
And as always, thanks to everybody that tuned in live tonight on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, and Instagram account. One final plea, please like, share, and follow this on your way out the door. That'll help everybody else find the replay a little easier amongst all the other stuff going on social media. But Until next time, enjoy the competition this weekend, everybody. For Jonah Wockenfuss and Zac Dean, my name is Brandon Baney. We'll see you back here next Tuesday night for another edition of Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com.